Alright, cool. So there we go. Hi everyone, TigerHawk-D3 here. It's a coding day. No coding will happen today. I am a bit late. Late as in the hour, not as in late for the stream. It's still today. It's exactly 2 minutes to midnight. It's always fun. So instead of programming something today, as you can see in the stream title and description, I'm just going to be telling you about Android and developing for that platform. Let's start first things first. Java generally uses Android generally uses Java as its language for behavior, and XML for appearance, kind of like how web pages use HTML for their structure, CSS for their appearance, and JavaScript for their behavior. The Java language what you need is the Java development kit, and that gets you the language and all the modules, etc. It's over 200 meg, the JDK. Python's about 30 meg. So there's one thing that's fun. I don't know why it's so huge. It's Java. And then the pretty much canonical way to develop an Android app is with Google's Android Studio. The environment I use for Python is Notepad++, which is, I don't know, probably less than 10 or 20 meg. It's basically just a text editor. Android Studio is 1.2 gig. Why it needs to be so big, I do not know. I really don't know. Python programs run instantaneously, meaning the compile time is immediate. You don't have to sit around waiting. I mean, there's an interactive interpreter. Even type in a command and enter, and there it is, pretty much immediately, generally. Running Android apps. First, starting up Android Studio. That takes about 5 minutes. 5 minutes? I'm not exactly sure how long, but it's a few minutes. It's not like start that up, okay, it'll be going soon, alright, let's go. It makes InDesign software seem fast, cheetah-like by comparison. Takes forever to start up. And then once it's started up, it takes more time to continue starting up. So after it's finished starting up and starting up again, you can hopefully do things. Create a project, for example, which takes more time. Everything in this environment takes forever. I don't know why. At the very least, it's multi-core, which means it uses all 4 cores in the CPU for a while. If it didn't, it would use just one, so I would have a responsive system, but it would take 4 times as long. So good on them for making it multi-core. So at least it's faster. It's not fast, it already takes forever with 4 cores. The whole thing. 3 gigahertz-ish? 3.2? How fast is my computer? Properties It is 3 gigahertz. Okay. It's a Phenom 2X4940, by the way. Black edition, because it's fancy, it's tactical. I don't know. But takes forever to start something up, start a project. Once you've gotten your XML file set up, and nicely slotted in there among the dozens of other files of basically boilerplate, random junk, which is neither random nor junk, but it's a boilerplate. I don't know what it does, and no one will tell you what it does because it doesn't matter. But it's there, and it's going to appear there, and it's going to clutter up your workspace. Maybe it matters sometimes, but when? I don't know. It could be that eventually it'll be a thing to use some of those files that nobody really wants to mention. It's like it'll do file things. It's okay. It's fine. Just let it. So you've got your XML file, which is incredibly verbose, by the way. Instead of having a number of arguments for whatever element you're trying to make, like in Python, for example, with tk-enter, row equals 2, column equals 3, or whatever. You have an argument, a property of it, and then you give it a value. Like sticky equals n, if you want the widget to stick in the north area. The way XML works to set up an Android project is that you have each argument, basically, each property, is its own thing, separate. So you would have, say, see if I can remember any of them. Android dot something like layout align left, and then you would set that to true if you wanted to do that, and that's separate from layout align right. Now you won't set all of them to true, but that's how it works. So you end up with a whole pile of garbage. It's not garbage. It has a use. It's practical. It's used and needed in XML, but it looks like garbage. No one likes writing or reading XML. No one, because it's awful. It's not for humans to read. So note that I'm not talking about how Android apps run when you download them from the store. I'm talking about developing them. So XML, incredibly verbose and extremely flat. Instead of I have a widget with this, let me do it in your direction. I have a widget with this property that I want to set to this value. You say I have a widget, here's a property and value, and it might be true or false. Here's a property and value, here's a property and value. Layout align left, layout align right, layout align top, layout align bottom, and sometimes there's no layout included. I don't know why. Sometimes it's underscore to separate things, sometimes it's camel case, you never know. Python tries to be consistent with this sort of thing. Most things are snake case for functions and variable names, and camel case for classes. Doesn't always follow that. Like in the collections class, there's order dict and default dict. Default dict is I can never remember which. One of those is camel case, the other one is all lowercase. So that's the exception that bothers people, and they say, why is it like this? And it's like, that's what happened. Someone suggested it at one point with just trying to create the function, and no one remembered to change the name before they included it in the standard library. Oops. And now it's in there and everyone uses it, and if we changed it, it would be broken. but really they can just add it as an alias. They can just have another one and it just is a reference that points. Anyway, and then you have Java, which is used to program the behavior of your application. And Java's messy. I don't like it. There's all sorts of junk in there. When I was learning Java 2 years ago, our big class project basically was a month-long thing in a group. Our first quarter, I had the same teacher for 2 quarters. We did basically a Rolodex, a contact list. So you have you can add a person, and they have a name and a phone number and address and maybe a note and whatever, and then you can search to look them up. And we had to make decisions like, do we want an array list or a linked list, etc. Real important things. Doesn't matter at all. Premature optimization at its finest. That was our month-long project. The second quarter was a media library, which is like a contact list for books and DVDs. So this project was basically exactly the same, except with some different names and inheritance. That's all it was. Month-long project. Oh, and the teacher tacked on a requirement of use a GUI. Put a GUI in there. Never taught us how. The only instruction we got was, here's a small sample of a GUI using Swing that I found on the internet. It doesn't work. It has bugs somewhere, but I don't know what's wrong with it, because I don't know how to do GUIs. So have fun, people. And we're like, okay. Didn't learn very much that quarter, I can tell you that. But yeah, month-long projects. One day, after knowing some Python, I was like, I think I'll try writing those. It was like 2 or 3 hours. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I just did tk-enter with TTK that has the notebook widget for a little tabbed browsing interface. And that was it. It was like, this is a few hours in Python. The Java version was thousands of lines for the GUI. And this GUI requirement was tacked on, as I said. So first we were deciding in our group, should we use a terminal interface with text that we already know how to do, or a GUI, which we have no clue whatsoever how to do. And I was like, I think we should do what we actually know how to do. And one of the other guys was like, but I want a GUI. And it was like, we have no idea how to make one. We haven't been taught how to make one, and we don't have time to figure it out, really, as far as I know. But he really wanted to, so I'm like, okay, you can write the Vue class. Have fun. I really didn't care at that point, because I knew the class was not useful. The teacher didn't know the subject. The first quarter was good. I learned a bunch. But the second quarter was like, I don't have anything else for you. Sorry. Should not have been teaching the second quarter, because they didn't know how. They didn't know it. So this guy in my group ended up hacking together an incredibly bloated and weird Vue class, the GUI, and we had a GUI, and that was that. It was incredibly large. I don't really know why. I hardly looked at it. I didn't really care at that point. Neither did the teacher. She didn't know what she was doing. Might as well not care, right? I mean, she wasn't going to look at it or understand it. What does it matter? Probably could have written it in Python and been like, here's our project. Just kind of slide that paper across the desk, right? Submitted electronically through whatever, I don't know. Although I guess she'd have to run it, and she'd be like, this says .py, or, this is a packaged exe, instead of like a jar or something. And it should be a .java, so I don't know. Maybe it could have been a Java program that just ran the included Python program, a little Java wrapper, like having a sticky note and writing Java on it and putting it on a snake. A snake would not be happy. That's okay. That's what we should have done. Just get it done in a few hours and put it in a box that says Java. Anyway, messy language. Okay, not messy. It's large. Lots of boilerplate. Lots of doing things that shouldn't really need to be something that the developer has to handle. But Java developers love their interfaces and their, what else have we got? Interface and implements, all these fun things that you end up having many files, and you haven't actually done real work yet. Haven't gotten anything done. You've just written a whole bunch of stuff that frameworks. The term for this is architecture astronauts. That's when you get a lot of architecture, grand structures, and no building. Because you're so high up in the clouds that you're not getting things done. Anyway, that's enough bad-mouthing Java. I do not like it. It's not my style. But I mean, it works. There is Android, and it works for lots of people. So there's that. I mean, I don't like JavaScript either. No one likes JavaScript, but it's everywhere. So there you go. Let's see. So you have your XML file, your Java file. This is for a simple application that I'd gotten as far as there's a hello world, and there's something with a couple of buttons, plus and minus, and you can increment and decrement a number, and then press another button and get a value based on that number. Ordering coffee, and then they're $5 each, and you hit order and it tells you the total. Very simple. So the next part, how do you run this? Your computer is not an Android phone, is it? No. And you can't really write Android apps on your Android phone. I mean, I think there are some projects that sort of attempt to do that, but the way to do it is with Android Studio, basically. I tried Visual Studio. I got Microsoft Visual Studio because it, like on the home page of the Visual Studio Community Edition, it very loudly announces that you can use it to develop Android apps, and I'm like, that's delightful. I should first explain why I looked into that. So, your computer is not an Android phone, but the apps are intended to run on an Android phone. What do? Well, what do is you plug your Android phone into your computer, and then when you build your project, it runs it on the phone. Very nice. Until last week, I did not have an Android phone. I had a Nokia 2610. I still have it, but it's not, you know, active, and I can't use it to do Android stuff. Funny story, the salesperson at the store, at the AT&T store, said that I couldn't get any trade-in value for it, but if I wanted to give it to them, then they could give me like 20% off on an accessory for my new phone. And I'm like, no, I'm keeping this. This is my Nokia. What if there's a zombie apocalypse? And I run out of, you know, ammo for my shotguns. But then I'll want my Nokia for, you know, it's like this big, but, you know, can't really club anything with it. But I can be like, Nokia, and they'll be like, oh, those never break. And yeah, it never broke. It's perfect. Perfect phone. I do have a lot of shotgun ammo though. I got a box of 500 shells of birdshot, which I think is halfway done. And I don't know why, but I got another box of 500 for buckshot. Double lot. I don't use that. You can't use that at the trap range. I mean, you can, but it's dumb. Like, it's probably noisier too, which is the local gun club has some noise regulations. So you have to use a 26, I think, inch barrel or more. So probably buckshot they wouldn't want at the trap range. But I mean, I'm sure you can use other stuff in other parts of the range, but the trap range is too close to, other areas, and I live in California, so people are crazy. But anyway, doesn't everyone love the sound of gunfire in the morning? Nokia, good for things. Didn't have a smartphone. Now I do. Now I do have a smartphone. I have a ZTE Maven, which is $40. Lacks some features like USB on-the-go support and video output, and it only has 8 gig of storage space, about half of which is taken up by the system and such. So I have like 3.5-ish gig to work with, and the camera isn't so great, and it's slow, etc. But it's an Android phone. I mean, Android phone. It's a. Can you see? That's what it does. It's a phone. I had an S7 Edge before, and there's a whole video on that. Maybe I can link it. That's an idea. Where am I at? 22 minutes. Let me do that. I'll write a note. So I will put a link to the S7 Edge review over here, and a link to my ZTE Maven review over here. So that's what I'll do at this point. That's enough time with those up. Now, I have a phone, right? And the thing is, next step is to connect it. Oh, I thought I could use an emulator instead of getting an Android phone now. The 2G network is only going down December 31st, and it is now June, which is before December. So old phone would have worked for several months still, but I got an Android phone because I was trying the emulator and it just wasn't working. My computer is, I built it in 2009, and like I said, the processor is an AMD Phenom 2 X4940, which is from 2009. It's not an Intel i7, and it doesn't have HyperX or VX or some other features. Basically hardware acceleration for the Android emulator. Now, the whole point of an emulator is that you don't need special hardware, but apparently you kind of do. So after a while of trying to figure out what I could do about this, short of getting a new computer, because there are no other CPUs, basically. Like getting any CPU that fits in this current motherboard that I have, which is also from 2009, don't really exist anymore. And so getting a different CPU that does exist would mean a new motherboard. And at that point, new computer time. It's funny, when I tried to upgrade the RAM in this a few months back from 4 gig, which was not enough, I can tell you, to 16, which is the maximum allowed by the motherboard, it didn't work if I had 16 plugged in. It worked if I had 8 plugged in. Any module, any slot was fine, but if I loaded the whole thing, it would just boot and then try to load Windows, and clunk and boot again and load Windows, and it just didn't work. I talked to both the motherboard manufacturer and the CPU manufacturer. That's a Gigabyte, I think it is, and AMD. They blamed each other. I'm like, fantastic. Would have liked to spend 20 bucks on RAM instead of 40, and not have 8 gig sitting on a shelf right over there. That's how it goes. My computer is old. If you've seen my gaming streams with high motion segments, you know my computer is old and I need a new one, because they get pretty choppy, especially if I forget and leave it at 1080p, and then it's like it's not gonna work streaming it at 1080p while running something else in there. Actually, what did I do? Oh, I left this at 1280. Whatever. It's a 720p stream. That's fine. There's nothing fascinating going on here. That's one thing I wish OBS had. A little more visibility for settings for what resolution you're using, because I can't just have the same resolution all the time. It doesn't work. My computer can't handle that. Similar to how it can't handle the hardware accelerated emulator for Android. So I eventually found a different emulator somewhere in the list there that is fully, emulated. Emulates the hardware for the emulator, I ask you. But found that, and took so long that I wasn't sure if it was working. What I ended up doing at one point was I can get it for you right here, because it is right here. Isn't that great? I can show you visually. I have a Pippo X9 mini PC. It's a 9-inch 1920 by 1200 screen with an Intel Atom-based CPU. What are those called? Sky Bridge, Lakewell, something, or Cherry Trail. Cherry Trail, and the new one is Bay Trail. But it's pretty darn cool. It has USB ports and speakers, and more USB ports, and that's USB ports, HDMI, Ethernet, and power input, and a big old Wi-Fi antenna. There's no internal battery. It's a PC, not a laptop or a tablet, but it has a touchscreen. So anyway, it dual boots Windows 10 and Android. So isn't that cool? I did have an Android device, right? Well, how do you plug such a thing in? Does it work like that? I really don't know. And what I did was build APKs. Give me a moment while I put this away. Didn't want to awkwardly one-handed and then, drop it on stream. That would be very bad. Muy malo. So instead of hitting run in Android Studio, I would I would go in the menu and choose build APK, and then I would get that APK and put it on a USB flash drive, this sort of thing. I think this one has Ubuntu on it. 2 Linux distros, the 32 and 64-bit, 2 Linux distros, 1 flash drive. It's funny. Put it on the flash drive, plug it in, USB, it has USB ports, and run it that way. And it worked. I was like, wow. But one thing about Android apps, if they have an error and crash, all it does is say it stopped working. That's all it does. Doesn't say anything else. Now you might be like, well, if it stopped working, right? What else do you need? the error message, the traceback, if you're trying to develop, is kind of important. Like I have a misspelled name in this function that's trying to access a button name that doesn't exist, or whatever. And so it doesn't do that. And I'm like, that's kind of bad. And I asked on Stack Overflow how to view the logs without connecting the device. Tried some answers that said, in other questions that said, save the ADB logcat. First I needed a terminal, because Android doesn't come with a terminal. In any modern-ish Windows machine, after like 7 or whatever, you can just go to the start menu or start screen and go CMD, enter, and there's your terminal. It's built in, it's all working, hooked up, it's perfect. It's that one that you need. Android, no, I had to go into the App Store and get a terminal, and then go into the terminal and try ADB logcat, and it's like, no, it doesn't work. I'm like, why doesn't it work? I don't know, can't get you Flask. If you've watched my other videos, you know that can't get you Flask is something I really, really dislike. Tell me what went wrong so I can fix it. Doesn't have to fix it automatically, but just, you know, tell me. Let's see. So that didn't work. I asked a question, how can I actually do this? I tried this, but it didn't work. So what else can I do? No comments, no answers, no votes, nothing. 99% of Stack Overflow's utility is in getting your homework done for you. One example I saw today was basically someone was supposed to be learning about the if statement in class. And their way of saying this was, I can't remember how to choose which thing I want to print here. I have two objects, two lists, and I want the user to be able to choose which one of them to print. I can't seem to remember how to do that. That was their exact wording. Can't seem to remember an if statement. If you can't remember an if statement, it means you haven't touched any coding in 50 years, because it's an if statement, or you never learned because you're too lazy and you don't want to read the book or ask the teacher or do anything at all. And of course, people will rush to that kind of question because it's very easy to say, how about an if statement? But if your question is something along the lines of how do I view a traceback for Android without a connected device, then nobody wants to touch it because they don't know how, which is understandable. I don't know how either. That's why I asked. But I figured there'd be like an amazing expert that would explain what was going wrong, how to fix it, because presumably someone at some point somewhere has not been able to plug their phone into their computer to test it on, and the emulator doesn't work on their computer for some reason. I don't know. But no, nothing. Too useful. Not homework enough. The thing is, it was sort of for homework. I'm doing have been trying to do a course on Udacity for beginning Android development. But it's not actually a homework question. It's a question for me to be able to do my homework, but it's not like in order to put these widgets in the top left corner, what attributes should I use for this view group? That would be a homework question. And if you ask that, people will happily answer because it's very easy. And then you can answer in 10 seconds and then get some points and move on, and people think you're amazing because you have more points. I have many points on that site, most of which I feel kind of ashamed about because it's like, how about you use enumerate? I have over 20 points in the Haskell tag, because someone didn't know Python's enumerate, and asked a question about it, and I'm like, how about enumerate? And there you go. The stupidest stuff will get you a ton of points, because most people want the stupid stuff. My first question on there was bad. I know that. But only the first one. I have like 5-ish questions on there now. The first one that was bad, a few that were pretty decent, but I think if I had thought about them a little more, I might have got it. But I mean, at the time, I was dumb, so I was like, how do I do this? And someone answers, for example, you need has a, not is a. Like, this class has an object, not this object is a superclass object, a subclass of this thing. I was like, oh, makes sense. And now asking an actually difficult question. Not only does no one want to answer it, no one wants to comment on it, saying like, I can't see anything else either. That's interesting. Have you looked here or there or wherever? And no upvotes. I thought it was well asked. Nothing. Just nothing. Completely, nothing. And I don't want to offer a bounty on it, because the way bounties work is that once bounty answers are eligible, if someone answers and you don't think their answer is correct and helpful, and so you don't award it, it gets automatically awarded to, I think, the top voted question or something. And if it doesn't answer my question, then I don't want to give away my reputation to someone for not helping me. So that means I'm not going to use the bounty system. Maybe if someone does answer and it helps me, then maybe. But just putting a bounty on there and having it be featured or something, nope. Because I want it actually answered to my satisfaction before I say, before I give points. So no luck there. I was pretty disappointed, because I spent a lot of time helping people with their stupid questions that get me a lot of points, and their not so stupid questions that generally get me a lot fewer points. Weird how that works, but it does work like that. And so I'm like, okay, try the emulator again. I tried it today, and it just takes, 15 minutes to start up. That's a nice edit, compile, test cycle, isn't it? Must be a good job to be an Android developer, because you get breaks all the time. I'm going to open Android Studio in the morning. Time to get a cup of coffee. Bye-bye. Come back to your desk. I'm going to open a project. Goodbye. Come back a few minutes later. I'm going to, start a new file. Goodbye. I'm going to, build this project. See you next week. Not next week, but 15 minutes. In Python, if I wait more than 15 seconds, I go, and that's me looking at the hard drive activity light on my PC, going like, what the heck is it doing? And generally it's like loading the interpreter from wherever. But if I've just run it like previously and it's in memory still, basically, or cached or something, then it's faster, a couple seconds. But anyway, after 10-15 minutes, I eventually see like Android, and I have like a little phone that I can, do things with very slowly, maybe 3 frames per second, but it's there. And then I'm like, wow, amazing. And I hit build, and it says, which device? This emulated device. Great, fantastic. And then I wait for, 5 minutes or so, and I get an error. I don't remember what the error message was. It was like, unexpected error occurred, that it didn't work. And I was like, I don't understand this. And I go and I Google it, of course, instead of asking a question immediately, because I do research, and my more difficult questions don't get answered. Anyway, maybe if I had asked about that, I would have gotten something. But regardless, I found some questions about that and looked at the answers and tried what they suggested, and none of it worked in the slightest. Actually, one of the answers was like, delete a couple of these folders in your project. Presumably they're like cached stuff. I was like, I figure. I mean, it's already not working, so if it breaks, whatever. And it broke it further. It was like, this file is missing. Error. Like, even earlier. So I was like, okay, that broke it further. That's great. And couldn't figure out what to do with that. And then I figured, if it's actually difficult, there will not, and I have to ask a question, no one will want to answer it, because people only want to answer the easy questions for which the original poster didn't do research. Basically. Didn't try hard enough. Didn't think long enough. If it's actually difficult, Stack Overflow is not a good bet. I have over 27k rep there. I've been there a while. I'm very jaded, you might say. There's a lot of junk questions that get answered. And the more difficult ones are no fun. So, nothing. Anyway, I do have a phone now, so I'm like, okay, the emulator still doesn't work. But I looked at this Udacity lesson about connecting your phone. I'm like, great. It's a bit of a montage. You'll do this, and then you'll go to a site that's over here, look in the notes, and eventually it works. And if it doesn't, Google stuff. And, ask on our forums, where you will never ever get an answer. I asked about how to view tracebacks without a connected device in the Udacity forum as well. Don't think I ever got anything on that. I have it set to notify, etc. Got nothing. No response, nothing, no help. Granted, I didn't pay. It's a free course, not their paid degree things. So I got what I paid for. Nothing. So I plug in my phone. I turn on developer, what's it, follow the instructions, which is you go into the settings and you look at the phone version and you tap it 7 times or 8 times or whatever. They actually did that at the AT&T store for me when I was asking how to use On the Go. And they're like, oh, you probably have to turn on this, and that didn't do it. I don't know. And I'm like, does it just not have On the Go support? You can tell me that it doesn't have it. They don't actually know whether it has it. They just say it doesn't seem to be doing that. And I'm like, but should it? Or is this the correct behavior? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. There isn't even a manual with the phone. I couldn't get a manual. I found the English manual on the Spanish website or something for this thing. Anyway, I guess they don't figure that anyone will actually want to know if a phone has on-the-go support. And there's so many models and things these phones can do. It's like, does this computer have, it's like going into Best Buy and saying, does this computer have good BIOS support for overclocking? It'll be like, I don't know, I work at Best Buy, man. What do you want? Well, they'll be thinking that, but they will be professional. They will say, I do not know, sir. Would you like to purchase it or not? They don't know. And so I plugged it in, right? And I went to the official Android site and looked at the little table they have of the various manufacturers, Samsung, Huawei, blah blah blah, gigantic, list. And there was ZTE right there. I'm like, fantastic, that's the phone I have. And I go there, and it's like, here's the manufacturer's support site on this for the USB driver for using it with ADB, the Android Debug Bridge. And I go there, and the page is literally like, I could tell you right now what the source is. I didn't look at the source, but I can tell you what it is. It's head, or HTML, head and head, body, and then some text with like, here's the USB driver for the whatever, and then break tag, and then a equals href with the link to the thing, and then the text they want for the link, and then end the a tag, and then end body and HTML. That was the entire page. I was like, wow, that's Spartan. That reminds me of pages that I've made for my website. I am very displeased with websites that fill themselves with garbage, like a lot of Wikia-based websites. It's a wiki platform, the poster child for which is Wikipedia, but Wikipedia is nonprofit and is supported by donations. There are no advertisements. Wikia pages are not supported by donations. They are for-profit, they have advertisements, and the advertisements are so thick they break the page. They'll generally hog the entire CPU, everything, because they're trying to load like 5 videos at a time, and some of those videos are like a banner that like expands while you're trying to read things. So you load the page and then you go down a bit, and then it goes and starts like shoving your content down, and you go, no, come back. It's like Winnie the Pooh Bear in the blustery day at Owl's house. He has a pot of honey in front of him, and he goes like this, and is about to dunk his paw into the honey pot, and then Owl's house, tilts a bit because it's a blustery day, and the table, goes like this, and it zooms away from it, and it's like, no, the honey. That's trying to use a Wikia site. It's awful. This is why people use ad blockers. If anyone who runs a Wikia site or any site with lots of ads, this is why people use ad blockers and see 0 of your ads, because you overdid it and now they don't want it. If you had a couple ads, Stack Overflow has ads, even for registered users. They're text-based and they're small, and there's like 1 on the side, on this side, on the right for you. Yeah, I see those. It's fine. But when the page doesn't run and I can't scroll because it's too busy loading a bunch of ads at the same time, and then they move my content around, then I'm like, finally, I can see the content, it's there. And then it decides to collapse itself again, and my content disappears upward, and I go, no. Awful. So that's why some of my pages are very, very simple. The appearance is boring, basically. And I'm very proud of that boring appearance. But if I were ZTE and I had a support page for people who want the drivers for using the ADB on their Android phone from ZTE, I would have something with more than 1 link, like maybe a little table with room for several links, because they only had one driver there for the MSM7 chipset. I don't know what in the world that is. The Maven uses the Qualcomm Snapdragon 400. The S7 Edge uses the Snapdragon 820, which is much faster, but still Snapdragon 400, not MSM7, whatever that is, and last updated in March of 2011. They have a single driver there that's 5 years old, and for chipsets that they don't sell anymore, I suppose. So that's great, and it's still listed in the official Android website, the developer.android.com, whatever, and it's listed, and it's old, and I tried it, and it doesn't work. It's a little executable, and I installed it, and it gives me a whole bunch of drivers to choose from, and I go into, devices and whatever, update the driver for this device that I had the phone plugged in, and it's like, I want to look for them, and it's right here, and it says Windows couldn't find a driver, and it's like, Probably because it's the wrong one. From 2011. And then I tried, some very foolishly hopeful Googling for others, but all I found was pages that looked like malware. And I'm like, if I download and extract and run this, my computer will be covered in rootkits. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. It was funny, one page had like a gigantic listing of all these, models and styles and types of thing. They all linked to the exact same file. And I'm like, then why not just say, it does everything with, a list instead of having a separate link for each thing, and you think it's like different and you could be like looking for yours in the list. This one, they're all the same. I am currently fiddling with a very tiny knife. This is a Gerber Ridge. They're actually pretty good. Gerber isn't like a fancy whatever. It's not like Microtech or something. Microtechs are nice, but they're $300. It was like $20, I think. But it's good. Pocket clip. Frame lock. Frame lock with the thing. Nice solid lockup. No blade play at all, and reasonably sharp. Still reasonably sharp. The finish is okay-ish. You can see some areas where it's a little chipped off, but it's good. You can fold it up and just put it in your waistband, and you can what did I use it for? Occasionally, I would bring my lunch to work last year when I had a job. A day job, I should say. I have a part-time job now. But I would bring basically a salad. Sometimes I would forget a fork. I'd be like, oops. Then I would go to the break room and I would get a coffee stirrer, a little wooden stick about this long and maybe this wide. This wide. And I would get my little Gerber Ridge and I would whittle the end into a point. Then I would poke my salad. Nom, nom, nom. Anyway, just figured I'd give you a little aside. What is he up to down there? So driver no worky is where we were in that story. Driver no work. Couldn't find one that worked. It's pretty much the whole reason I got a phone, not that phone, got a phone in the first place. That's why I had a that's why I was phone shopping. Spending dozens and dozens of hours researching phones. In the video I linked to earlier about my S7 Edge review, I believe I mentioned that I had been shopping for kind of lesser known brands of phone like Elephone and LED TV, etc. Those weren't even listed in the official Android page, so I guess it's maybe good that I got those. Maybe if I had gone to those websites like manually and searched for drivers, they would have a beautiful page full of drivers that worked. I don't know. Because this one that I have, the ZTE, was listed on the site, the official site, and they don't have anything. They have something, but it's old and broken. That's all they've got. That's all the support they have for ZTE. So I guess maybe ZTE has nicer phones. You must spend this much to ride the Android development roller coaster. And then wait in line for a few hours, right? While it loads. And you can't chat with your friends while you're doing it because it hogs all your CPU anyway. So that didn't work. Emulator didn't work. Getting getting the traceback logs straight from a device didn't work. I have no idea how to continue development for Android applications. I can't figure it out. I don't know what to do. And this is the compressed version, highly compressed. I spent about an hour, and the real time that this has taken is significantly more. I was just kind of skipping the little quizzes of it's funny, the Android quizzes on Udacity are basically check this box when you've done it. Not I took the GitHub class and finished that, or the Git course, which includes GitHub, and they'd ask, questions of what sort of concept is this, and what's it connected to, and what command would I use, and it's like, okay, that's a quiz. The Android one is all, check this box when you're done, and then click continue. Great job. I guess they can't really check for whether it works in some way. But I was just checking, yes, I totally ran it on my phone. Okay. I lied. But I really do need the ability to view tracebacks, because sometimes the error won't be change this name to one that doesn't exist, and then you will see what an error and its traceback look like, right? Sometimes it will be like an actual mistake, something just won't work, and I'll have to see what went wrong. So I can't really just kind of skip along. I skipped some and saw more stuff, and it's like, okay, I really do need to figure it out. How do I do this going forward? Because there's only so long that you can assume that your programs will not contain any bugs whatsoever, and basically not run them, because running them is a hassle and a half. Either spending a while running them on an emulator in there, or building an APK and putting it on a flash drive and transferring, etc., instead of just, run. I mean, I remember compiling just plain old Java programs. It took several seconds, it took a little while, but it was like compile and then here's the output. It's right there. But I don't know how to see the traceback. I got a phone, I returned it, I got a different phone. It doesn't have drivers. I can't see it on a different device that I can't connect. Don't know how to connect. Emulator doesn't do it. I don't know what to do, and it really bothers me. But don't know what else I can say about that, other than I have a computer and 2 Android devices, and none of them will show me the logs, and no one knows how to get it to show me the logs. I requested write access to the Stack Overflow Android chat room this afternoon, several hours ago, but I guess they're not very active, so no moderators of the room have been on to grant me permission. I looked in the rules. They're mostly checking for, like, are you a real member of this place, or do you just kind of drive by question asking for your homework to get done for you, which is good, I guess. It's funny because everyone says we don't like it when it's just, ask someone to do your homework for you, but then those are the kinds of questions that get answers, which is a little weird. Stack Overflow is 99% garbage, but Google makes it easy to find the 1% that is not garbage, and that part is useful. If you access Stack Overflow through Google, looking for an answer to a common question, whether or not you know it's common, that's fine. If it's just what method do I need to use for this, widget and whatever, and there it is. It's fine. But if you have an actual difficult thing that isn't, how do I, print a dictionary, like something that you're pretty sure people have done before. If it's something like, how do I view a traceback without a connected device on for my Android application, crickets. Crickets answer. They comment with chirp, chirp, chirp. No, they don't comment anything. Nothing. And no upvotes. Apparently it wasn't a very useful or clear question that showed research. The criteria for upvoting a question are listed as question. This question shows research effort. It is useful and clear. I went to a lot of research effort, many hours. I attempted to show it, said what I did and what didn't work, and other things I tried. Useful. I think it would be useful. For me, at least, and maybe for other people who don't have a connected device, don't have a phone they can use, but they have some kind of Android thing, like a tablet or a mini PC. And clear. I thought it was clear. I have a degree in technical writing and a degree in communications. I'm good at writing, clearly and concisely. But no upvotes for that, no attention, nothing. So I don't know how to do it myself with all of the possible methods, and I can't get anyone else to answer to help me out. So that's Android development. I don't know what else to say other than what I've said before. It bothers me. Because it's so easy in Python. You go to python.org, front page, you download it, you install it, it's done in a minute. It's done downloading in a few seconds, done installing in a minute or whatever, and then you run it, and it runs immediately. It works. But Android, everything takes forever and doesn't work. I don't know how other people do it. Maybe their phones have drivers and work. I don't know. But the phone I got, the only reason I got a phone at all before 2017 was to do this, and it doesn't work. I thought it doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to work, and it doesn't. I guess I should have looked up driver support beforehand and been like, oh, updated 2011, this is the one I'm planning to buy. But the first I heard about this phone was at the store, saying, what is the cheapest Android phone you have? And they brought me over to the corner of the store and they said, this thing. And I'm like, it seems fine to me. Less RAM, less storage, worse camera, worse display, worse CPU, worse graphics. But its Wi-Fi works. And I thought it could run simple Hello World type apps. I'm not going to be running bioinformatics programs, trying to do permutations on a million, sequences. That's not what I'm going to use an app for. So it, I really got it for one thing, and it doesn't work. And I guess I might have looked it up, but I thought I didn't see any reason why it wouldn't work. But the manufacturer doesn't care to release drivers is a perfectly good justification, a reason for it not working. And got all this stuff, tried all these things. I do have custom ringtones, though, so that's fun. It's a good reason to get a new phone. I think I could have set up custom ringtones in my Nokia. I just didn't have space for them. 2 meg, right? 2 meg is not very much. I deleted like desktop themes and such. The wallpaper, instead of like some animated it was just blank, just white background. I don't care. The screen's this big anyway, and it's like 8 pixels. Who cares? It's not like I'm gonna be showing it off to customers. Ooh, look at our new model phone with the fancy whatever. No, I just want to use it. People aren't buying a feature list. They are buying the product or service described by that feature list. And so many companies prioritize the feature list. It's very unfortunate. So anyway, tried Android development, can't get it to work. Tried lots of stuff. Various methods, lots of research. Can't get any of it to work. Can't get anyone to help me. So, that's the stream. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.